The following is a production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. Kick off your work boots and pull up a boulder. It's time for Man Cave, discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. Grab your favorite beverage, pick out a comfy spot around the campfire, and enjoy today's conversation with our two favorite cavemen, Pat King and Brian Howe.
Welcome to the show. I'm Pat King.
And I'm Brian Howell. And yesterday officially began the season of summer. So today on Man Cave, we're going to talk about
season of
summer. Already?
Wait a minute. I still have blankets on my bed. It's June. It's been cold.
It has been a weird month, to be sure. So with you being in the landscape business.
Oh, it's killing me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've lost 8 days
of
productivity because I'm either dealing with wet ground, like for mowing. Mm-hmm. It's like I have storm drains.
Right.
And the bottoms are full of water. And I've tested those waters before. And it's not fun trying to get myself out of there when I get stuck with an 800-pound mower.
Now, if we remember last year, what a difference a year makes.
Oh.
But last year we had like 2 weeks of triple-digit heat.
Oh, yeah, early in June. I mean, I posted on Facebook, I said, today, last year, we were at 98 degrees. Today, we're at 41. I said, doggone global warming. Can't make up its mind.
Yeah, it is an inconvenient truth. So with summer comes vacations. And so when you and your family are on vacation.
You just had one, didn't you?
I did.
Oh.
And I have to say that I am guilty of this.
Doing this show.
But when you're on vacation with your family, how do you continue to live out your Catholic faith? And I had this conversation with Father Vogel and Father Brady years ago, but they were encouraging people. It's like, plan ahead. If you know you're going to a certain destination, find out what Catholic parish is in that area.
There's an easy way to do that now.
Really?
There's a Mass Time app. Have you downloaded that on your phone?
I have not.
Okay, so go to your app on your phone store, whatever, I don't know all the technical words. But you can download the Mass Time app, and then wherever you're traveling to, you can put in the area code, you can put in the name of the city or the zip code of the area or just the state, and it'll pull up all the churches within those areas. Mm-hmm. And on them, then you select the one you think you might, Lincoln City, Oregon. And you push on Lincoln City, and it'll tell you where the church is, pulling up their website, their mass offerings, the times, the language they speak, the phone number, all that on your phone. And so I've been using that for years. So whenever I've traveled anywhere and I'm going to be in an area, when I was in Vegas a couple years back for a trade show, I just said, okay, where do I go to mass? And it gave me options, and I said, well, I'm not going to get up that early, so I'll go eat breakfast, and then it'll give me time to go to mass at Our Lady of the Snows in
Vegas?
In Reno.
Oh, Reno. Okay,
Reno.
that makes more sense. That makes more sense.
I was visiting my dad in California, and I just Googled and said Our Lady of the Snows in Reno, and I thought,
nice.
I like it.
That's
so whenever
good.
I travel, that's what I do.
That's a good idea, because we shouldn't, even though we're on vacation, we shouldn't have our faith go on vacation.
Well, your vacation should be actually lead you more time with God, because now you're with your family, and you should be a better example.
Yeah. Because
now your work life is not the hecticness.
Right.
You just plan it out a little better. You go, okay, kids, for us to do this, we have to do this.
Right.
It's that carrot and stick thing. If we don't go to this, we don't get to go to that. So be up early. And I think kids on vacation, don't they kind of get up earlier?
It's interesting how much earlier they get up on vacation than when they're home
not
over summer vacation. Yeah, summer break.
It's amazing how that works.
Because they want to go do things.
For me, in my business, unfortunately, I don't get summer vacations.
Right.
We would try to take little weekend trips and stuff like that, but then so does 50,000 other people take those same weekend trips. But it over my lifetime, it seems like every time I planned a trip, something major would happen that would prevent me. The first time I planned a trip to McCall with my family, my brother ran the Boy Scout camp at the time, and he said, come on up. Now, I thought he was inviting me up to come and just enjoy and relax. He had a work schedule for me. So he was trading my work's labor for the free cabin and food. And I'm going, oh, there's a method to your madness.
There is no free lunch.
So, yes, I learned that my entire life. So anyway, as we're going, now we did end up going, but we were really late, is that one of my big projects had a major meltdown of their sprinkler system. The pump failed and water main broke or something. Oh my gosh. And when I took my last trip with my son, before he passed away, I was going to going out to a conference, but I was going to take a week, 10 days, and I have family back in Iowa that I've not met since I was like 7 or 8 years old. So we were going right through Iowa to Illinois for this conference, and I had a foreman that I had to fire due to his drinking on the job, and the other guy that was kind of my lead repair sprinkler, a guy that did a lot of mechanic work and stuff, but he also knew the route. He said, go, I've got you covered. You need to go. It's important. And so we take off, we get through Yellowstone, we come out on the other, now there's no cell service at that time. This was 2004. And there's no cell service. We get through Yellowstone, we get out in Cody, Wyoming, and all of a sudden I get these bars. And I got like 19 messages. And it's that very same foreman that says, I've got a job in the oil field. I'm quitting. I'll see you later.
Oh, no.
He bails on me.
While you're on vacation.
At the beginning of my trip. So I tried to make the best of it. I have no choice. I have a nursery going at that time need to be watered. The guy that was watering and taking care of the plants then had to take the mowing crew out. So subsequently, he was covered for the weekend. I go to Jackson, Wyoming. We spend the night there. We have a little bit of fun. We drive all the way back. My wife and kids, they do the watering. My nurseryman, he goes out and takes the crew out. And then I make arrangements to fly back because I had to be at this conference. It was something I was part of, a committee I had to be part of. And they helped pay for that trip. So I don't get to see my family. Now, at the time, my son was healthy. We didn't know anything about it. 2 months later, he passes away.
Oh, no.
So I never got to see my family in Iowa, and nor did they get to see my family, which was very sad. So these are the things that I have faced over the years, and so vacations wasn't something I planned out. It was hopefully that it would just find itself to me. And I'm not trying to be depressed. It's just when you own your own business, these are some of the things you have to be aware of. But we did take some vacations, usually in the wintertime. We'd try to go someplace. So we became more winter vacation people because of my downtime.
Right. That makes sense.
Anyway, not to mean to be a depressor, but vacations can be a load of fun.
Yeah.
When we did travel, we would go to places where it was a little bit warmer weather because my son didn't do well in the cold, and the girls liked the beach and stuff like that. And they were short. We didn't. It was short, but I wasn't Catholic at that time. So the nice thing about being a non-denominational person, it's not your church. You don't have to go. I mean, you have your home church. Why go to another church and hear some message that's off the beaten wall? That's the nice thing about being Catholic, is that it doesn't matter what city you're in. They're going to follow the liturgical calendar, and you're going to go to Mass as if you're in your own home state. You're just going to have a different priest up there.
And before COVID, you had an opportunity to go to Italy. And granted, that wasn't a vacation as much as it was a pilgrimage, and you were kind of doing some soul searching, getting ready to write your book. But, tell us about your experience in Italy.
Well, so I've as a kid, when I was raised Catholic, I would always watch Midnight Mass on TV. The local and Twin Falls KMVT would present the Mass, the Holy Mass on midnight. Okay, now that would be, at 7 hours midnight, back in Idaho. And so I think it would be like, 7 in the evening. So I'd watch it on TV. And they'd show the crowd in the Vatican, in St. Peter's. They'd see the crowd outside, the amount of people. But it was just so beautiful that I always said, I want to do that one day. And so I had planned this trip for a couple years to set money aside. And we can talk about miracles because later at another show where I'll bring this up. But I didn't get to go when I wanted to go. because my dad passed away. But I then ended up going the following year. And so I went before Thanksgiving. Hopefully I could go eat Thanksgiving dinner with the American University over there where they teach seminarians. But they were having that where all the bishops have to come, and the cardinals and bishops have to come and pay their respect to the Pope, that trip. And I don't remember what they call that. But there was no room at the inn for me. So they had no place for me to eat in their cafeteria because it was full of bishops and stuff like that. And so, that's a big thing. So I get there before Thanksgiving, and my plan was to write a book. And I wanted to go to the best city I could find that was the most peaceful, most spiritual that I found when I was on a previous pilgrimage, which was Assisi. So I planned almost a month in Assisi. But I had to be back in Rome because I had applied for and received invitations to get a ticket to go to St. Peter's on Christmas Eve for Mass. And boy, that was like, wow, that was fantastic. So I go to write a book, and I do stuff there that I'm not a sitter, and I could sit and write for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time.
Wow.
But Assisi was that really time, and I was going to daily Mass. And I didn't understand a single word they were saying because it was in Italian. But I'd go before we do the rosary and stuff like that, and I'd sit in the Mass, and it was so beautiful to just see no time restraints on me. I knew what time it was in the evening. It was easy to go. They aren't serving food at that time, so it made it real easy. Restaurants were closed during that hours.
Right.
So I think that's why they do the Mass. So anyway, I go to Mass, and then afterwards, a lot of us would go and eat at a restaurant. But that was probably the best, most relaxed period of time in my life. And it was winter time. I'm not working. My animals were being taken care of by a friend, and I had a camera so I could keep an eye on them. And then I went, my plan was to then go just a couple days before, get my ticket, go to St. Peter's for Christmas, and then just spend time roaming around Rome. And I stayed very close to Vatican.
So you were a Roman Catholic.
I was a Roman. Roaming.
Okay.
Yes, I was all that.
Yeah.
And, to go to the Wednesday audience, and then to hear the bells, and they have a Catholic church. I can't remember the name of it. It's right outside the Vatican, just outside the walls of St. Peter's, and outside the walls. The gate that gets you into the piazza. It's just outside there, and it's they have an English Mass every Sunday. So I'd go and at least get the English Mass on Sundays, and it was beautiful. The churches there are just gorgeous. I think I visited 300 or 400 churches while I was there.
Wow!
And because I was there for 2 months,
yeah,
and I got to travel, but I didn't have a care in the world because I was there to immerse myself in my faith. And I tell you what, that it would have been hard to do with kids because they want something to do.
Right.
And I was just wandering around, going in and out of churches and looking and praying and kneeling and lighting a candle and stuff like that. And that's a once in a lifetime pilgrimage.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to do it again, so that's twice in a lifetime. But it was well worth. And you know what? Because I went by myself and I wasn't on a pilgrimage, I think I only spent $6,000 the whole with all travel, all meals, expenses, all hotel. It wasn't that bad. But I got my book written. It's not edited, but I got my book written.
And I think that's the difference too. That when you're out there and you're thinking about pilgrimage versus vacation, there is a definite difference in that. So summertime, and you're in the business of lawn care, lawn maintenance, landscaping, and that. Give us some tips as far as how do we keep our grass green when it is 115 degrees?
Mow it.
Now, how high do you mow it though? Because I get in arguments with my neighbors about this every summer. Mine is tall because I want it shaded and I want it to hold the water. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're mostly right, mostly wrong.
It's like arguing with my wife.
Yeah. Well, here. Okay, so everybody has this notion that if they water during the heat of the day, they're going to lose more of that water to evaporation. And they really aren't going to get any benefit. But I'm here to tell you, if you really want good lawn care, it's better to water during the heat of the day. How many times have you been out in your yard and it's hot and you're working? Because you're not working at midnight.
Right.
You're not out there working in your yard at midnight. So you're usually working after you get off work or on a weekend. You're got a lot to do, and so you only have a day or two to do it. So you're out there working in your garden all throughout the heat of the day. And do you just work continuously through without stopping for a drink of water or a sandwich? You know, you don't. You're sweating. And what is that sweating? You're evaporating.
Right.
Okay. You're before my very eyes. You're evaporating. You're not precipitate.
I'm basting in my
perspiring.
own gravy is basically what I'm doing.
So yes. So human beings perspire. Plants transpire.
Really?
Same word, but they're wicking moisture all the time. And what's worse on ground or plants, trees, shrub, or the soil is wind. Wind's harsher
Than the sun.
You know, because why do we use a hairdryer? It's blowing. You can put on lukewarm and dry your hair. It takes a little longer, but wind dries out faster than just direct sunlight. Okay, so when you're watering your lawn, if you can water during the heat of the day, you actually water less. Believe it or not, because your grass is stressing out from the heat, and now you're putting something cool to quench its thirst at the time when it's hottest. Usually in Idaho, we hit the hot period hit between 2 and 6 p.m. That's usually that hottest window. So if you have the ability to water during the heat of the day, that's the prime time to do it. Now, I tell people to schedule. If it's eastern sun, you can hit that a little earlier. If it's western sun, hit it towards the end of the day. Because here's what happens: you wet the surface down. You cool it. You actually take the temperature out of the soil. You put the moisture back in. The plants suck it in faster than it evaporates because they're thirsty. Okay, just like when you drink water, it doesn't immediately pour out of your pores as sweat. Right?
I hope not.
It fills you and it actually satisfies you a little bit, cools you down, and you can keep going because now you're hydrating. And you're trying to hydrate your plants as well. So But the action of cooling the surface now requires the sun and the wind, or the sun, to raise that temperature back up to where it can start transpiring. By the time it does that, the sun is starting to set and it's cooling off already from shade or shadowing or whatever. It's not going to reach its goal of heating that soil back up to where it's stressing the plant out. So you curtail that temperature rise in the plant when it needs it the most. So think about it. When you're thirsty, it's thirsty. Okay. So then the other thing is, what about evaporation? Yes, you're getting some, but that actually cools your own environment.
Okay.
It cools your house off. It cools your patio off. You ever see those misters around?
Oh,
the
I
patio?
love those.
Well, why do they do that?
Cool off the air.
That's right. It's an evaporative cooler. So evaporation is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a very beneficial thing to your health, to your animals, your dogs, your home, your surrounding, your backyard patio. It's a perfect combination of environmentally friendly cooling without using energy to actually artificially cool your house. It's a natural cooling. The other thing is, I like mowing my lawn short. I keep mine at about 2 inches. Some people at 3 or 4. Yeah, I know what some people say. You hear commercials, oh, raise that height up to 4 inches. And, you know, it's like wading through quicksand. If you're trying to play in your backyard or walk in your backyard, you're laying that grass down, you're dragging your feet. It's harder to mow. Then you don't get your lawn to the right condition for good growth and good use of a backyard. A backyard, especially with kids, should be play done.
Right.
Catch a ball. You can't roll. I mean, you ever see a baseball field cut tall?
It's not 4 inches.
No.
It's cut pretty short.
And they're hot.
Yeah.
I mean, they're an open field, and they're played on, they're driven on, they're walked on, and yet, how do they survive?
Yeah.
They're watering. So the reason why I say this is that I've been doing this for 40 years, but I was in Palm Springs on a golf course, and my thoughts on watering was water at night. You don't water during the day, evaporation, all that. I believe that. So when I'm in this golf course. Now, in the summertime in Palm Springs, you play these golf courses very cheaply because they got to keep mowing them. They got to keep watering them. So they want to have as many people on them as possible to get some revenue coming in. So I could golf for, $18 a round on some of these very
$1 a hole.
Yeah. $200 a round during the wintertime golf courses, And here I am playing these really fancy golf. But we're on this golf course. My friend and I were golfing. We're drinking a few brewskis. Who doesn't do that when they're golfing, especially when it's hot? And the water comes on just as we're getting ready to play on the fairway. And before I was converted, I'm cursing. I'm mad as you know what. And the golf ranger happened to be in earshot of me. He goes, "What's the problem? Calm down. It's not the end of the world. Why are the sprinklers on? We paid to play golf here. My whole $18. I want my money's worth. Doggone it." And he goes, "Well, they'll be off in a few minutes. It's just a syringe cycle." "What the heck is that?" "I'm a a syringe cycle."
Huh.
I said, "What the heck is that?" He goes, "Well, the surface gets so hot that we try to cool it down. And by the time the surface gets cooled down and the sun starts to dry it out again, the sun is setting and the grass isn't stressed out, so you can play on a nice surface with a good bounce, not a hard surface that ricochet rabbits." So I learned from that one incident that made sense. Now, the other thing that makes sense is when you go out try this tomorrow morning. Go out in your lawn first thing in the morning. Feel how cool and somewhat moist your lawn will be. What happens is when the heat rises, well, what does heat do? It pulls. Mm-hmm. As it's rising and lifting off the ground and dissipating, it's pulling the coolness back out of the earth. Well, what is coolness? You ever seen a Pepsi can and all of a sudden starts
sweating?
Because it's cold and the heat's pulling away from it, pulling that moisture out as it's cooling that little area around it. That's what your grass is doing. It's almost watering your lawn for you in the morning. So if you put enough moisture down, the right amount of moisture down in the afternoon, that tends to stay there near the surface, and as it cools, it'll bring that moisture back up. Now, I'm not a scientist. I don't know this, I didn't go to biology and whatever, agronomics, but 40 years of experience has shown me that I can't mow some lawns when the night's really cool until it warms up a little bit and then the turf dries off, or I'm mowing mush.
Right.
So I have to watch the dew. And if there's no water the night before and yet there's still dew on the ground, where'd that come from? So, because I mow, I turn the water off a day or two before I mow. So I'm mowing on dry surface so that I'm not sinking and getting stuck or tearing up the turf. So when I go out there and it's a cool night after, maybe a cloudy afternoon or a humid day, there's so much moisture on the ground. Yeah. I have to wait till 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning to mow.
So in order to save money, we want you to water during the afternoon because you won't have to water as much, and keep the grass a little bit shorter than maybe you normally would.
You could probably keep it at half the height you have now. Okay. And keep it healthy. And the thing is, you're actually going to let your lawn fill in. So tall grass tends to be sparser. Shorter grass tends to, what does grass want to do if it can't grow up? It wants to grow out. It wants to fill in.
Wants to spread.
So by keeping it tighter, you help it spread and fill in a little better. And you also let the oxygen and the plant grow at a proper rate. Okay. Now, summertimes, our cool season grasses tend to slow down. I don't want to say they go dormant, but it's too hot for them to grow. You notice how in the spring and the fall, the grass just kind of flourishes.
Right.
So like even tomatoes at anything above 80 degrees stop really producing. They just kind of they'll stay alive, but they really slow down. How many times have you said, well, I'm coming into fall and I got all these green tomatoes, and all of a sudden they start ripening like crazy? It's because tomatoes like the ideal temperature of growing between 58 degrees and 75 degrees. Anything above that is too hot, and they slow down.
Well, something else we want to talk about with summer here is barbecuing, which again
I don't
is
like it.
a wonderful area of expertise of Mr. King here to my left. So, barbecue, what are some of your favorite things to throw on the grill? Do you prefer to grill versus smoke? Do you do both?
It depends on the efficiency of the meal. If I'm just coming home from work and I want a burger or a steak, I just hit the gas grill because it fires right up, heats up, and I can be cooking in 10, 15 minutes. If I know I've got a bunch of friends coming over for a Saturday afternoon, it's like planned on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, got to have this, got to have that, start seasoning this, and then I put on the stick burner. Now, there's pellet stoves and stick burners. I have both. Sometimes I just want to smoke something and then I'll refrigerate it. Like I'll smoke some cheese. So the reason why I'll do that is say I want to smoke some hamburger patties, but I don't want to cook them because I'm not ready for them. I'm a single guy, so I will smoke several things, some chicken breast, stuff like that, days in advance, and then cook them later. So if you want a smoky flavor, but out of a frying pan, or even on the grill, the grill, you get your pellet stove going, get the smoke going, set it at a lower temperature, put your meat on there for 10, 15 minutes and get that smoky flavor. Then I will put them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the cold refrigerator, and that cold brings that smoke a little deeper into the meat.
Oh, wow.
So then if I just have time to cook it on a frying pan or on the gas grill, then I'll just fire it up, turn on the gas grill, and now I've got smoked meat because it's like a firebox this big will heat one patty or 100 patties.
I did not know that.
Well, it depends on the size of your smoker.
Right.
But you don't need more heat to cook 100 patties. You've got the same heat, the same smoke, the same firebox cooking. So what I try to do is I'll prepare, if I'm going to fire up that smoker and use pellets or sticks, I'm going to smoke as much as I can on that grill because it's the same surface. So in the same firebox, why waste the wood for just, like when I do briskets, I do 2.
So speaking of wood, what is your favorite wood to use? Because, you have hickory, apple, cherry, mesquite. It
depends on what flavor I'm trying to go for, what
certain meats,
what essence I'm trying to find in the meat. There is a list of woods that work best for lamb or chicken or pork or something like that. Apple's very good. Apple's plentiful in this area,
right?
So apple wood is cheap. Hickory is not grown in this area, so I usually have to buy it by the pallet, but it's kind of expensive. And so pellets are a combination, unless you can get 100% hardwood. That's more expensive, but usually it's 50, 60% alder, and then it's 20, 30, 40% of that other wood that says hickory on it, And they don't have to be 100% hickory to be hickory. Alder is a softer wood that's plentiful, and it's a good smoking wood, but it's a mild flavor. So if you're wanting hickory, you just know that you're going to have a little alder in that as a base to make that pellet. But a stick burner uses, of course, real cut stick.
Yeah.
Logs that are split, and usually that's how I buy them, is a split. And I'll start my firebox with some old apple wood to get the coals going. Then I put the hickory, because the hickory is like 5 times the cost of apple wood. Mm-hmm. But there's cherry wood. You can smoke with oak. You can smoke with mesquite. Mesquite's a very strong flavor. So like if I want to add a little mesquite to it, I actually use charcoal. Charcoal, because that's a small little brick you can put in there, and it's got a good flavor, but it can be overpowering, especially on a long smoke. So, and briskets take a while. A pork roast, a pork butt, which is actually a shoulder. I like the bone in because that bone acts like a thermostat to the center. Because what happens, that bone is on the surface, usually goes from one end of almost all the way to the other end, and it'll help take that heat further into that bone without it falling apart. When they take the bone out, it's kind of a loose roast. You probably should tie up so it doesn't kind of fall apart on you. and you want it to fall apart on you, but in the pan properly, not
not all over you,
not all over the griddle. Yeah. So I have a gas grill, which is propane out my way. I have a pellet stove, nice one. It can cook quite a bit, and then I have a stick burner, and I have an offset. So it's not direct flame; it's an offset, meaning the firebox is over here, the smoke comes through here, and it goes out the chimney. Those that smoke with those, you can buy that at most D&B or local hardware stores. Will have bundles of different woods to smoke with. I buy it by the pallet because I do a little catering.
Right.
And I am planning on doing a bigger smokehouse where I can do up to about 100 briskets at a time. Again, one firebox, you heat a room up, doesn't matter how many briskets you got. So it's a volume thing. So take advantage of it. So if you're going to fire up that grill and you're going to spend that money on that smoke wood, put chicken, put everything else on it, and prepare meals in advance so that you can put them in the freezer and have that smoked already on. So, when hey, I want some chicken, well, let's get the smoke. No, it's already smoked, saves you that time.
Yeah. So going back to the offset with the firebox, I mean, if you have a 5 or 6 pound pork shoulder, you're talking about an all-day investment, I think, with time and having to babysit that smoker to make sure it's around, 160 degrees?
That's what beer's for.
It's
a lounge chair.
1.5 hours per pound or something like that?
It varies depending on your elevation and, where you're at and stuff like that. But, yeah, so typically a pork roast is like a pork shoulder, a butt, is at 275. And so it's usually about an hour and 15, hour and a half per pound. And it depends on, so an offset is the flames over here. And if you want it more even, you don't want to put it right next to the throat of the fire, kind of put it more in the center. Now, when you're doing multiples, then you just have to rotate them. You have to be a little more conscientious. But you're mostly tending the constant heat. And so that's why it's better to get a good chunk of coals in there and then set that little vent on the backside at the right spot. And it's very important that mine is on wheels so I can turn it, but my wind changes a lot because I'm open. So I want the wind kind of coming through the firebox and out the chimney instead of back the other way, because then it kind of pushes the heat the other way. So I'm always constantly moving okay, time to move the box. But, and I like the practice. It's kind of fun, it's how you get better at it. But so if I don't normally just do one. So I just have to pay attention that if I'm over here, I then have to rotate it over to the other side and bring it up, because the offset, your fire's over here and your heat dissipates and rises as it's going out. So you kind of have to monitor that. And, just those good I use a good digital thermometer. I'll poke the inside of it. But there comes a point in time where it's time to, what you end up monitoring more often is the dryness of pork is drier. So you either have to have a bowl of water in there to keep the moisture inside the box, or constantly opening up and spritzing it. I like to spritz it with apple juice, or apple vinegar cider, apple cider vinegar. But you want to keep the moisture on it so that it doesn't dry out too much, because pork shoulder doesn't have a lot of fat in it. It may have it on the cap, but inside it's not marbled like a brisket would, or steak or something like that. So you want to keep the moisture in it, and 275 is a little hotter. Beef, you set it at about 225. And you want to try to keep it within that range. And then there's a point where you will wrap it. A lot of people use foil. I actually like to use the Kraft butcher paper, and I'll take it out and I'll lay it out and I'll wrap it in butcher paper, tie it off, and put it back in the smoker. Now, for time, sometimes your wintertime I'll smoke, and it's like, okay, I'm keeping a hot fire for wrapped paper, and they're really not getting any more smoke. So sometimes I'll just go set my oven or the gas grill, and I'll just finish it in there, because all you're really trying to do is just keep heat in and get the heat up to that temperature and finish baking the the
Inside.
crust. Well, you're finishing the inside temperature, but you're also wanting to
bake the crust.
Bake
Okay.
that crust so it's got that crispiness to it, that marble, that color, and that where all the seasoning is. You want that to kind of harden up a little bit, so when you chop it up inside, it's kind of blended. And, the flavor, making me hungry.
I know.
Stopped.
This was really a bad idea
should
to
not-
record this at this time.
Can we have some food delivered? Yeah.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, because Pat threw a lot at you, down below, leave a comment, and we'll do our best to get back to you with any of your questions. But manly stuff, man. Lawn care and barbecue. Summer's here, guys.
The
It's
only
our
thing
time to
was missing
shine.
was a lounge chair and a beer. Wait, can we do that?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll ask. So, well, that wraps up this episode. Next week, come back and join us. We're going to be talking about patriotism as we get closer to the 4th of July. But we always wrap up each episode of Man Cave here with the prayer to St. Michael. So let's do that now. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. All right, break out the grills, break out the lawnmowers.
It is time for summer.
Absolutely. So for Pat King, I'm Brian Howell. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Man Cave, and we'll see you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Man Cave, a weekly podcast discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. A production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. To learn more about our ministry, please visit our website, saltandlightradio.com.